In this video, I'm going to show you a neat little trick. All right, let's trick the software into doing something that is not prepared to do. I'm going to go again to the variables over here, but instead of poverty, percentage of African Americans or Hispanics or Asians or whatever, I'm going to open the first variable and I'm going to select longitude. Okay, the longitude will be the central longitude of each one of the counties. And then I'm going to select the second variable and I'm going to select latitude, okay? The geographical latitude of each one of the counties, the center of each one of the counties. And what inside will do, it will be, oh, actually it has not done it correctly. It's actually the reverse, latitude and longitude. Let me see if it does it now. So first variable latitude, second variable longitude, and what it will inside will do will be to draw a very rough map of the United States. We can see Alaska over here, Hawaii over here, and the rest of the counties of the United States over here. I'm actually, we still have the line drawn over that, so I'm going to remove that blue line by going to add to plot, trend lines and curves, and then deselecting linear, so the line will disappear. And I'm going to go back to select variables, right? So I'm going to download these. Just to show you how it actually looks like when we see it as a square graphic. It's a very rough map of the United States, but we're going to do something interesting things with the data over here. Let me show you something. Now that we have the rough map based again on the center, this is basically showing you the center of each one of the counties in the United States. Let's go to add to plot and let's go to customize plot appearance. Let's go again to point color, right? And let's color interior. And after we have colored the interior, let's tell the software to color the points by, I don't know, percentage of, let me open this up here, scroll down. All right, I'm using the arrows on the arrow key. Let's again, we're using, you know, the ethnic variables, the racial variables before. I'm going to select Hispanic, for example, because if we color by Hispanic, what will happen is that inside will give us a rough map of Hispanic population concentration. This is the percentage of percentages of Hispanics, right? If we could zoom in, or if we save the plot again, right, and open it up in PDF, we will notice that this give us a very good overall idea of where Hispanics tend to live in the United States. Over in southern Texas and New Mexico, there's also a high concentration down here in Miami. If I zoom in, I will be able to see that. You will see that the dots overlay too much. They are a little bit too big and they hide each other. We can control the size of the dot by clicking on point size over here, point size, and we can reduce the point size to 0.1 or to 0.2 if we want all the points to show. And then we could save the plot again, all right, and open up the new one, and you will notice that the dots have become much smaller and the picture becomes a little bit clearer. If we zoom in, we will be able to see them more clearly. So as you can see, the counties here in the border between Texas and Mexico are the ones with a highest percentage of Hispanics. But then you have counties also in Colorado that have a high percentage of Hispanics, right? In Alaska, percentage of Hispanics is super small. We could change these, right? We could go back over here and go to point color, and instead of Hispanic, we could select, for example, African Americans to see where African Americans live. As you can see, the counties that will appear bright will be the counties in the south. As you can see, from from Virginia down, right, to Mississippi and Alabama and Louisiana. I'm going to save the plot again. I could zoom in over here, but I don't want to confuse you, so I'm saving the plot all the time just to be able to see it more clearly. If you still believe that the dots are a little bit too big, remember that we can go to point size and reduce it even further to 0.1 so that we will not have that much overlap. So this is a great way of, you know, quickly exploring geographic data as well if you have the longitude and latitude of all the positions. Just to another thing, but that I'm not going to explore with a lot of detail, you have different color palettes over here. So the default is something called Viridis, but we have something called Magma, which is a red and yellow, or actually bluish red. We have Plasma. All right, I'm just switching back on between the different. Inferno, which is red and yellow, as you can see. Rainbow, I don't recommend this one to use a rainbow color palette. Right? It's horrible for colorblind people. Blue, which is the intensity of the blue. Green, so you have monochromatic color palettes as well. So you can play with the colors as well. But this is something that we can easily modify later in Adobe Illustrator. There's also one option here that I haven't tried called Use Ranks. I'm going to click on that to see what it does, because I have never tried to do that. Well, actually, it shows you, there you go, it changes the scale from 0% to 100%, and it ranks the data somehow, but I don't really understand what it does. The map looks basically the same as before, right? But anyway, so it's another one of those options that I have never tried. There's also an option called Reverse Palette. So that what that will do is that the higher percentages will be represented by the darker color rather than by the brighter color. This may be interesting in these cases. For example, I prefer these. I think that in this case, with this particular color palette, darker colors representing higher percentages work much better than the reverse, right? So just play around a little bit with these options, and then we will move on and do something else with the data.